friends, welcome back to the homestead. My name is Constance, and today we are going to do the next lesson of Home Ec with Constance. And what we are going to get into today is how to properly measure ingredients. And we are going to talk about different measuring tools as well as how to use them to get the most accurate measurement for your cooking and baking needs. So the first thing we're going to talk about is measuring cups. When you are measuring your ingredients, you have two different types of measuring cups that you would use. You have one like this that is see-through with lots of different lines on it. This is a liquid ingredient measuring cup. And with a liquid measuring cup, you may see them in varying sizes. This is a 1 cup, a 2 cup, and then I also have a 1 quart and a 2 quart. And these ones have lines that are simply raised, whereas my other 2 cups have printed lines. Now sometimes you'll see measuring cups that are sort of like these, and while these are pretty little cups, this is an antique jadeite one, the challenge with using ones like this is you can't see the contents through the glass. So I don't use this one very often. You can see that it does have lines for the different measurements in there: 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, 3/4, and 1 cup. But because you can't really see the level of your liquid in there, it makes it really difficult to actually measure with this cup, even though it is cute. So the measuring cups that I use the most are ones like this, and they have the lines that are very easy to see, and we will talk about how to use these to measure in just a moment. But first, the other kind of measuring cup that you would see are ones like these. These are dry ingredient measuring cups, and while you may occasionally see lines in the 1 cup one to show you different levels or different measurements, most often you would use these as whatever measurement the cup is. This would be used to measure a 1 cup. This would be used to measure 1/2 a cup, 1/3 of a cup, and 1/4 of a cup. These 4 are the most common measurements and what you would usually get when you purchase or are given a set of dry measuring cups. Now, I do have a set that I am often asked about, and that is this set. This is a set of measuring scoops, and one of them I've actually got in a canister at the moment. These were a little bit unusual in that you didn't get the same 4 measurements that you usually do. And while these are nice, sturdy, solid stainless steel measuring scoops, they didn't come with a 1/3 cup. Instead, we have a 2 tablespoon or 1/8 of a cup, 1/4 of a cup, 1/2 a cup, and a full cup. It didn't come with a 1/3 cup, which is very frequently used in recipes. So again, your liquid measuring cup is used for liquid ingredients. Your dry ingredient measuring cup is used to measure dry ingredients like flour or sugar or anything else that's dry. And then, of course, you're going to have measuring spoons. And these are for measuring things in smaller quantities. Measuring spoons are used for both liquid and dry ingredients. So now I'm going to bring you to a different angle, and I'm going to show you how to use the measuring tools to properly measure your ingredients. All right, so first we're going to talk about your liquid measuring cup. When you are measuring your liquid ingredients with your liquid measuring cup, one of the things that you want to make note of is the lines on the measuring cup. Liquid measuring cups can be used to measure at many different quantities, and so you want to make note of which line it is that you need. The little line next to the measurement is exactly where the level of your ingredients should be when you are measuring them. So to measure with your liquid measuring cup, you're going to set it on a level surface, and you're going to pour your liquid ingredient into the measuring cup, and you're going to bend down and look at your measuring cup at eye level. And I'll show you why in just a moment. And you're just going to pour slowly until your liquid reaches the line next to the measurement that you're needing. Now in this case, I measured a half a cup of the liquid. And when I'm looking here at the measurement, I can see that my liquid is right at the line, meaning that it's exactly a half of a cup. But if I stand up, you'll notice that it looks like it's not at the same level. That's because the glass has a thickness to it, and the inside surface isn't the same as the outside surface of the glass, which is why it's important to bend down at eye level to make sure your level of ingredient is exactly the same as the line marking the measurement. Next, we're going to measure some dry ingredients. I've got a jug of couscous here and a dry ingredient measuring cup. I have 1/4 of a cup here. When you're measuring dry ingredients, very simply, you're going to scoop out the ingredients, and then you're going to take a flat edge like a butter knife or a offset spatula like I have here, and you're going to drag it across the top of the measuring cup and allow all of the extra to fall back into your container. Then you know that you have exactly 1/4 of a cup of whatever it is that you're measuring. Now when you measure with a measuring spoon, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to scoop out your ingredient, you're going to take a flat edge, drag it across the top, then you know you have exactly what you need of your ingredient. Now measuring spoons are also used for liquid ingredients, and very simply all you're going to do is very slowly pour your liquid ingredient into your measuring spoon until it comes to the very top of your spoon. And hopefully you can see that. And that is 1 tablespoon of the liquid ingredient. Now when you're measuring flour to do baking recipes, you do want to do something a little bit different. Let me show you. Now when you're measuring flour, you don't want to just take your measuring cup and scoop into the flour, because what happens is it packs tightly into the measuring cup, and then you might end up with more flour than you intended. So when you're measuring flour, you're going to do it a little bit different. Instead of scooping out the flour, I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to spoon the flour into the cup until it's nice and full or even overflowing. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my level edge and I kind of cut it like this to get the excess off, and then I drag it across the top. And now I have exactly what I need for the flour without packing too much densely into that cup. The only ingredient that you would really want to pack tightly into a cup would be brown sugar when the recipe calls for a certain measurement of packed brown sugar. In that case, you would scoop the brown sugar into the measuring cup. You would take your clean fingers or the back of a clean spoon, and you would press the brown sugar into the cup and keep adding and pressing until no more will go in there, and then you would take your straight edge and level it off on the top, and then that would be your measurement for brown sugar. But brown sugar is the only ingredient that I'm aware of that ever tells you to pack it into the cup. Now sometimes when you're reading a recipe, it may actually tell you to measure your ingredients by weight. And in that case, you would need something like this. This is a kitchen scale. And whether the ingredient is dry or liquid, you're going to do it the same way. Now a kitchen scale is going to have a readout of some sort showing you exactly how much weight is on the scale. Some kitchen scales have a gauge, some have a digital readout like this one. Now this kitchen scale has the ability to measure in different increments. Here it is pounds and ounces. I can press the button and it will say milliliters. It'll say fluid ounces or grams. Whatever your recipe is calling for, that is what you would set your scale to. Then you would put your empty dish on top of your scale and you would zero your scale or tare it. That sets it back to 0 and it erases the weight of the dish that you just put in there. Then you would go ahead and start adding your ingredients, wet or dry, until you reach the weight that your recipe is calling for. And as you can see, I just poured in 4.5 ounces of liquid ingredient. Now something else that is very good to know when you are talking about measuring is how many of one measurement is equal to something of another. And that is very good to know, especially when you are doing a big batch of something. For instance, if I have a recipe that calls for 2 tablespoons of an ingredient and I'm doubling that recipe, instead of measuring out 4 separate tablespoons, I know that 4 tablespoons is the same as 1/4 of a cup. And so instead of measuring 4 separate tablespoons, I can simply measure 1 time with 1/4 of a cup and have the same amount of that ingredient. On my website, I have this little free chart that you can download and print, and it shows you how to convert some basic measurements into others. For instance, you see this great big G here. The big G stands for a gallon, the Q's are the quarts, and the P's are the pints. And so as you can see by looking at this, 1 gallon is the same as 4 quarts. Each quart is 2 pints. So in each gallon, you're going to have 2, 4, 6, 8 pints. Down here, you can see the P again for pint. And inside the pint are 2 C's. The C stands for a cup. Every pint is 2 cups. In 1 cup are 16 tablespoons. So you see 16 capital T's, which is a common abbreviation for tablespoon. Now this was getting very tiny and I couldn't fit them in there, and so down below it I put the T for tablespoon. Tablespoon can also be abbreviated as capital T small b. Inside every tablespoon are 3 teaspoons. Teaspoon is usually abbreviated with a small t or TSP. And so by using this chart, you can do the math and figure out how many of the little measurements are in something larger. So if I have 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, and there's 16 tablespoons in a cup, and 2 cups in a pint, we would just multiply the 3 teaspoons times the 16 tablespoons, gives me 48 teaspoons in 1 cup. There's 2 cups in a pint, so if I multiply 48 times 2, that's 96 teaspoons in a pint. Then if I go down here and I have 2 pints in a quart, 96 times 2 is 192. And there's 4 quarts in a gallon, which means there's 768 teaspoons in a gallon. So if I was measuring a very large quantity of an ingredient, it would be a lot easier to measure 1 gallon than it would 768 teaspoons. If you would like to get a free copy of this easy reference chart, I will put a link to that under my video description on YouTube, or of course you can also watch this video where this printout is linked on my website, cosmopolitancornbread.com. So that is how you measure your ingredients using liquid and dry measuring cups, as well as how you would do it using a kitchen scale. So parents, this week while you are doing some cooking or some baking, I recommend having your students help you out with the measuring so that they can practice their skills. When you have a particular ingredient that you're going to measure, ask them, is this a dry ingredient or a wet ingredient? What measuring tool would I best use when I measure this? Have them practice their measuring skills because they're going to need them to do just about anything else in the kitchen. So that is it for today. Thanks for joining me here again at Cosmopolitan Cornbread. My name is Constance, and I will talk to y'all next time.